to join Qr.fit in the product department, and he has been the product lead for their healthcare offering. He's also the founding member of Abhyuday. He started Abhyuday in his graduating year, that is 2014, and since then Abhyuday has been like reaching new heights every year and achieving a lot of success after the foundation. So yeah, handing over to Vishnu for this.
Hi everyone. So before I start my talk, I just want you to post your questions like through my talk on the chat, so that Hrishikesh can compile and we can tackle these questions in the end. Can I see the poll results somewhere? Like, or we have to end the poll to see the results here?
I can give you a brief overview. So we have most of the UGs and followed by masters, and we have some people who are not who are like just students before, like pre-grad school students, like pre-union students. So yeah.
All right. And so within our UGs, let's say, are they in their placement year or before
Most
placements?
I think 30 almost like 90% of UGs are in first year. So yeah, and we also have a good amount of participation from masters.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So I'll share my screen and I'll walk you through. You can see my screen?
Not yet, Vishnu.
Not yet.
Can you right now?
Yeah, it's visible right now.
Yeah, now it's visible.
Yeah.
Okay. So, hi everyone. So, a quick introduction about myself. So, I am born and brought up in Vijayawada from Andhra Pradesh, originally from there. And I joined IIT Bombay essentially in 2010. So, 2010, 2014 graduating batch, and I was a computer science department student. As one thing that was mentioned, obviously, is Abhyuday. I founded Abhyuday in my graduating year, and I think the team has done a great job there. But I also did my minor in HSS and a lot of courses in IDC. And I think that would explain probably my career choices right now, what I have done back in college. And after I graduated, I joined Samsung in Korea essentially as a software engineer. I did that for about 2 years, 1.5 years to be exact, and it was a lot of fun. Pretty interesting to see a company of that scale doing innovation and launching a lot of new products. But I wanted to be more than an engineer. I wanted to do a lot more than just execute on technical aspects. And that's why I wanted to move to product management. I found product management to be a nice career move for me that utilizes more of my skills and is more aligned with what I want to do, what I want to learn. So I have joined Samsung Mobile division essentially as a product manager for Samsung Pay. Did that for about 2 years, launched a lot of products, entered a lot of new markets for Samsung Pay. But eventually my end goal is to do something for India. Like I learned a lot of interesting things with Samsung, but I wanted to do something in India. So I moved back in 2018. It's been 2 years now. And I am working with a mid-sized, reasonably large startup called CureFit, and where I lead the healthcare business. So just to put things in context, let's say you would know what Samsung is, but CureFit, CultFit, EatFit, we have a lot of .fit brands. Some of you might have tried it, might have seen Hrithik Roshan branded stuff in few places. Our goal essentially right now is to make health easy. We do a lot of products, whether it's for your fitness, for your mental health, for healthy eating, or for your medical health. So with the goal of making health easy, all our products are built and designed around. So I look after the healthcare product, and today what we will tackle is the following. So I would want you to understand what product management is. It's a bit vague. There are a lot of different things. There are a lot of wide variety of people doing product management. So I would try to sort of explain and help you understand what product management is. Next, we'll touch upon a bit briefly who will make a good product manager. This should help you understand what skills are required or what things you need to build in your years in college after you graduate in different roles. That should be pretty illustrative. Then we'll briefly touch upon how to get into product management, because lot of different, as I said, a lot of different people want to get into these roles. So how can you get a foot in the door for this, and briefly touch upon what are the few career choices after you be a product manager, like how can you grow in this career. And in the end, I would want to touch upon few very broad advice I want to give for you in shaping your career. And finally, we'll tackle questions. But please post your questions whenever you have something on the chat. We'll sort of collate and touch upon them in the end. So before we get into product management, right? I think what is most attractive about this job is that you want to build great products. You want to build products that many people want to remember. Many people fondly think about it, use it every day. That is what I think a lot of people are attracted to towards product management. So let's touch upon what a great product is, right? So in the end, a great product is something that provides a great value and it tells a great story. And let's think about what we think are great products, right? So few examples I've given there. You have Google search, like you know how valuable it is. Anything that you type, it understands you, it corrects you, it informs you, like whatever queer, whatever different that query might be. So you find great value in that product. The same thing can be said of AirPods, like pretty innovative, pretty distinct in its visual style of it. It tells a story also while being lot of practical value. You pop open, it's instantly connected to your iPhone device. You pop in and listen to music. It put forward a style to the other people that, hey, I am an Apple user. I use Apple products. So that's a story that it tells also. Or similar, while first one is a software product, second one is a confluence of software and hardware. The third one, it is also a great product, right? A simple Lego. People love Lego. It is a great value because you could create a lot of different things and you could build anything for any different ages. But it also tells a great story. It tells you that you can be creative. It tells you that you can build anything from these simple blocks. It also tells you that we as a this stands for essentially like fun, learning, informative. So all these products that you see, right, they are a combination of great value. They solve certain problems, they give certain pleasure, and they tell a great story behind it. But building these great products consistently requires something else. It requires a great team. You might have one hit wonder, but if you want to continuously deliver value, build a higher and higher valued company, you need to have a great team backing this thing. So this is what great products are. Now, what is product management? This is probably the only role, let's say, where product is in the title, basically. You would have engineers, you would have marketers, you would have user experience designers, but this is one role in a company where product is itself in the title. So what is the story of product management, right? It is essentially these things that I spoke about. It is identifying value for users, which means you need to understand what do people want, what do people need, what problems do they have. It is creating a story to tell. So you have understood this, you have a solution that you want to sell it to these consumers, you want them to use it, but you need to definitely tell a story behind it. What is its value propositions? Like, how is it unique? How are you positioning that product? What story are you telling is very important. And finally, in the end, you have to deliver whatever you want with a great team. So you need to be innovative, you need to have that execution to drive through, and you need to be responsive. So whenever you have a feedback that is coming in, you need to be responsive and react to it. So in a very crisp sense, product management is these three, right? You identify the value, you create a solution for it, obviously, and you create a way, like what is it, how do I position whatever I want to sell, and then you deliver that with a team. So this is what product management is. Now, obviously, the first question you would have is, whatever I said, isn't that the whole company's job? Like everyone in the company has to do all the three things that I've said. That is true, but who would own it, right? That is the major question. If no one owns it, then no one is going to, like, you are never going to have a great product. If you're not measuring something, you're not going to improve that. So that is the reason. So the product manager essentially owns these goals. So why is it important that someone owns it? Because someone has to sweat over the details. Someone has to convince different stakeholders in the company, in a team, in a group, that we have to build it this, we have to do it this way. Someone has to continuously track results. Someone has to always see whether, hey, launch new stuff, If something's not working, improve it. If something's not doing well, kill it. Like, who's the one who's taking those decisions? And you would be surprised, right, while I'm saying this, like, who's talking to users? At any company, the bigger the company you are, in the end, you're building a lot of things, you're shipping a lot of products, but very few people actually talk to users, talk to a lot of people and understand what their needs. So who's talking to users? And finally, who's processing all the above signals? So to sort of, I know it's a lot of words, I'll give you a few examples to walk you through all of them. But essentially what I'm saying is, in the end, a product owner, a product manager owns this stuff. They own the success or the failure of the product, and how they do it is by going through all of them. So a small company, a startup, the CEO themselves are a product manager. As your complexity of the company increases, like, you would need dedicated people who would sweat over these details, and that's where a product manager fits. So I'll give you an example, right? So this I'm talking to you right now about a product that I have shipped yesterday, just last night. You can actually go to CureFit app, go to CareFit and see this product. I'll walk you through what we have built, why we have built, and what are a few things that we have done it unique. So here's the situation, right? Right now we are in this pandemic. We are most of us are stuck at home for our safety, for everyone's safety. And what we realize, what the news says is hospital capacity is in severe strain. Like in cases like Delhi, in Mumbai, we have seen how many people are not able to find hospitals. If they're able to find hospitals, it's very, very expensive, prohibitively expensive for them. What you also know is COVID-19 leaves many people with very mild symptoms. Many of them are asymptomatic; they don't have no symptoms, or they have mild symptoms. They have some fever, a bit of cold and fever and coughing, but nothing very threatening, and they can be treated at home. Now, let's take this situation, let's take this problem of hospital capacity being at severe strain, a lot of people having no or mild symptoms and can be treated at home, into a slightly as a business or a technical product oriented opportunity, right? So, doing what we wanted to launch was a at home care. So, can we provide care from home? Why is it good? Because it's less health risk for healthcare workers. If asymptomatic and mild patients take up more and more hospital capacity, that's not great, because more people then have to serve them, more healthcare workers, that increases their exposure. So not a great solution, and there's an opportunity right around here. Also, it is cost effective for customers. I don't want to scare you folks, but at least in like a high quality bed in certain private hospitals can cost almost 1 lakh a day also in certain cases, while these at home care solutions can be in few thousands essentially. So there's a great business opportunity. There's a great even a voluntary a public good also to offer, a good technical solution to offer. Now this was the reason why we said, hey, in CareFit we have a lot of doctors with us who are partnering with us, and they would want to help COVID positive patients or people who are home quarantined, and they could do it at a nominal price. So because they are not going to a hospital and serving there, but doing it from their homes. Now this is the business side of things. From a consumer side, right? What are their needs? So here's what I did. Once we have established the business context that there is something that we can work out, now I went and spoke to a lot of people who are quarantined at home, who were COVID positive, who were hospitalized. I spoke to subject matter experts, I spoke to nurses, and I spoke to different stakeholders, understanding how it can be done. And I've also spoken to a lot of these patients. So I tried to understand what their needs were. So, and this is the summary that I understood, right? One is everyone wants a good doctor to take care of them, whether it's at home, whether it's at a hospital. They in the end want a good doctor. They also, like, one of the scariest thing that you would hear about COVID is that suddenly your oxygen levels drop. You were good until this moment, and suddenly you have very difficulty breathing, and you have cases like where I have to rush to a hospital. So people have concerned about, oh, what happens? What do I do if my symptoms worsen? If my vitals drop? So there's a lot of anxiety or information gap between what people have and what, let's say, doctors know. And the third important thing is the social angle. Is, let's say, if someone knows that you have traveled or you were exposed to COVID and you're quarantining at home, the first question that all your friends and family have is about your health. If they're nosy, they would rather ask you every few hours, like, how are you doing? How are you doing? If someone is tech savvy, they'll ask you to tell you what's your temperature, what's your oxygen levels, like what's your BP and all of it. So we know that friends and family inquire about health, and then they want to, I as a user would want to share my status. Now, this is a product that we have built, right? And we have built it in a matter of 1 week. So what we have done is on our app, we have a way in which you can add your pulse, temperature, BP, and oxygen levels, record it on the app. You can also mention what symptoms you have, and we, using a heuristics, would tell you like what you need to do. Hey, whether you should watch out, or let's say if you're quarantining, or if you don't have, like, if you have mild symptoms or initial stages of COVID, we sort of give you certain hints. So this information, right, solves the second problem that we've spoken about, which is that I have anxiety with my vitals. If my temperature is 101, should I be worried? Should I call an ambulance and go to a hospital? You have tons of questions. If my oxygen levels drop from 98% to, let's say, 95%, I have a lot of questions as a consumer. You would have a lot of questions. So this solves the anxiety part. Now, all of this information is also shared to a doctor so that they can, like, call you up, you can message them, you can talk to them and see what medicines to take. That is being handled offline, but this solves one major insight. Now, this we have built it live. And next question, as I said, is can I share this with my loved ones? They want to know what my readings are, what my latest reports are. So we are building this feature next week, which is you can share it over WhatsApp, this report. If the need arises, we would also build a live tracker similar to how you would track your bus or your Zomato delivery, all of that. You can also track, let's say, your health real time, your family and friends. So that can be built. Now, this is one example, like, of where I come in, right? So as a team, we understood the situation. We have defined this business context. I stepped in and said, hey, these are the user needs that we have to take care of. That's what a product manager does. Now, how do I provide value? This is how we provide value. We solve user problems. I am concerned about my vitals, so I give you an immediate interpretation of what I need to do. And other user need is I want to share it with my loved ones, so I build a capability for that. And I work with engineers. I work with doctors to define the logic, like when should I say this, when should I say this. I work with designers to build this UI. I work with different stakeholders to deliver this product. So this is what this does, right? So I identified the value. We have created a story to tell, and we said, hey, we deliver it with a team. So this is what a product manager does. So now I have given you some examples. Obviously, I cannot explain everything that I do every day to you in a very short talk, but I'll try to explain in few broad strokes what a product manager does, right? It depends on the company a lot. It depends on the team. It depends on the culture you work in. I illustrate this further, but I'll give you an example of what I do in CureFit, right? I sit here essentially. There's business who look into a lot of mechanics of operations, pricing, and all of that. There is technology team which helps me execute a lot of those things. There is design team which makes a lot of these ideas into concrete, interactable designs. And I sit somewhere in between here. And depending on which company you are, what kind of a product you deal in, you sort of gravitate towards one of them, one of these quadrants. But let's say if you are a totally hardware product, then instead of UX, it's going to be hardware design, or it's going to be product design. So to illustrate this further, let me sort of use this matrix to explain it to you. See, your background can be from a design point of view. You could be a software engineer, you could be a chemical engineer, you could be any kind of engineer. You could be purely coming from a analytics perspective or an MBA. You could come from an ops heavy perspective. You might be in a role where you manage large teams of people. You manage large fleet of drivers. You manage, let's say, delivery of healthcare. So you could be an ops. You could also be like a research engineer. Like, let's say you have background from data science. You understand machine learning. You understand how to use these purely technical concepts and deliver value. You could also come from a marketing background. So you could be any one of these. And a customer, right? Your customer can be B2C. Or what is B2C, right? B2C is essentially, let's say WhatsApp is a B2B company, while a B2C company. while a B2B company is something that delivers value to businesses. A B2B company delivers value to individual customers. So depending on this, what kind of company you are, your role changes. Now, your company can also be a software, it can be a hardware, or it can be a confluence of both, O2O, offline to online. A good example of offline to online is Uber, right? So Uber or Ola, essentially where your product is drivers and cars, delivery fleet, while and that is an offline component, and you deliver this value to online through the app, through all the technology that you build, pulling in consumers and the users and all of it. So your company can be any one of this, your customers can be one of this, and your roles can be one of this. Now, depending on a combination of this, your role changes basically. So what you do day to day in a company changes from this to this. So to illustrate this further, let me take my example of CureFit right here. So in my job, it is a software company. We are a B2C company, and we are in some sense an O2O company. So what does it mean? So for us, our consumers are you, everyone, every consumer in India, every age is a user of us. So we are a B2C company. We offer O2O products in the sense that we have doctors, we have technology, and we have consumers. So we are an offline to online sort of a platform. And I am essentially a combination of this. I have design chops, I have technical background, I understand a lot of these things. So I combine these skills, and my company does this, and my company and my business is this, and that forms my role, and that's how I execute. So this is slightly different concept, difficult concept to understand, and I will in the questions I'll take few examples of companies and explain how this role changes. Let's say you're in a big company, how that does role change. If you're in a small startup, how does it change? If you're in a hardware company, how does it change? So we can talk upon it in questions, but this is a very broad overview. Now, after this, what makes a good product manager, right? And I'll first touch upon a few tangibles. See, as I said, it's a very multidisciplinary role. You have seen it, how I work with different teams of people, designers, engineers, doctors, machine learning folks, and try to deliver products. So in the end, this is something that you don't learn in college or something. So the best teacher here, or the best tangible here, is experience. And experience does not mean you have to work in a product manager. It means that you have built products at whatever capacity it is. It can be a college project. It can be your own startup that you have done in college. It can be a project that you have done. It can be a hobby that you have picked up. But a good product manager essentially is someone who ships a lot of things, because that is the greatest teacher for you. The second skill is something that we call as product sense. Is when you see something, right, a great design, a good, well-built product, an easy to understand value proposition, you immediately know that this is a good product. Now that is definitely slightly intangible, but how do you make it tangible is you explaining why that is great, why a particular product is great. So that is something that you build by thinking more creatively, by understanding what is a good design, how is it solving user problems, or what problems is it solving, and how is it effectively solved. So this is one skill that you need to sort of continuously improve and work upon, and that will also come as an output of experience. The other thing that is very important is you need to have some strong background. You can be a great people manager, you could be a great technical guy, you can be a great design guy and still make a great product manager. You need to have some background in any one of these core capabilities, like core skills, that will help you sort of root you in, and provide you a lot of doors in the future. And finally, you have to be very, very analytical. See, I'll tell you why this is very important, because a lot of people have opinions of what good design is. A lot of people have opinion on what great a product is. But how will you, and a lot of people have hunches on what works. You have a lot of crazy ideas in your mind. How can I validate that my hunch is correct? Whose idea is correct? And for that, you need to be very good defining metrics, tracking metrics, and having a keen analytical sense. So these are few tangibles that are important. So you need to build a lot of things. You need to do a lot of projects. That is the best teacher that you have. You need to have few core skills that help you ground you, and you need to be analytical like across. Now, few intangibles, right? And look at this image that I was saying. See, a lot of people have a lot of ideas. Like they have idea, they have this data. They think this is a better idea. This is something that we need to do. There are a lot of things that the team contributes. Product, by the way, is not built by one. A whole company builds a product. Your culture defines a product. Your organization defines a product. But to simplify it, how do someone process all of this information and take calls, right? And that happens by these three things. And this is a very important intangible that applies very much so to product, but in other things in life too, which is you need to have a high sense of ownership. You have to drive the conversation, not be driven. Otherwise, like you would go haywire by essentially reacting to many different opinions. And you need to understand the space, the users, the market dynamics that you play in. So a high sense of ownership is pretty important. You need to communicate effectively. In the end, this is something, an interdisciplinary role. You work with a lot of people. You need to have excellent written communication. You need to present really well, and you need to have a way in which you can convince people or organize and structure the meetings really well. So communication is another pretty important role. And finally, it's people. And when I say it, because in the end, product manager, some people say, is a CEO of a product. It is correct in some sense, but a CEO also has owns the company, leads the company, has essentially leads the teams. But a product manager in some sense is an individual contributor, in the sense that they work with many different people, and he or she influences the team in a direction that they want to go. So in that sense, you need to manage people, manage different stakeholders, and always remember, let's say, who's not in the room, because their decisions also impact your product. So I know I've slightly running through this, but touching upon how to get into product management, right? If all of these things make sense to you, if you think you have these intangibles, if you think you can build these tangibles, if you think the problems that I've said interest you, then how do you get into product management? Is the following ways, right? You can start your own company, and that is the greatest way. Every CEO in the end is a product manager. So that is the best way to learn product management. You would know how to build and deliver great products. You could also join through campus by, let's say, if certain companies offer associate product manager roles, where they select people who have raw talent, who work on many different things, technically skilled, academically skilled, but also do a lot of extracurriculars, or do something out of their own initiative, have started their own projects. These are skills that are valued, and some companies take this up. Some of the folks start their career in other companies, in other roles, do their MBA, and then shift to product management. So these are few ways in which you can move to product management directly, where you have companies looking for product managers. And a more common way and a different way is also to transition. So you are an engineer, you are a designer, and you move into product roles within the same company. That is another very common way, and slightly easier, not easier, but let's say compared to moving across different companies, one way to go about it. Obviously, you can move to a different company too. So the way these transitions typically work is you have proved to them that you're a good employee, that you have you think about it not just from a pure execution standpoint of view, but all the things that I have said, from a business, from a design, understanding the users, and what makes great products. Now, by showing those skills, you convince the team that you can start owning up certain product responsibilities while being an engineer, and then slowly transition into product management. This is how I have done. I essentially had opportunities to do both, but I essentially chose the first part. With this, I started being an engineer. I sort of convinced a couple of I did sort of independent projects within my company, making a case that I can be a good product manager. And then I transitioned to product management, and then now that's my career for the past 4 and now 5th year essentially. The same applies to folks in IDC, couple of you who might join, which is you start as a designer, or even engineers who want to approach it through design. You start being a designer, being a UX designer, and you essentially move into product management where you also interact with engineers and business folks and all of it. So that's another common way to transition. So, so finally, right, what is after product management? A lot of people start their own company. They use these skills and try to build something of their own. You know, a couple of people. Sundar Pichai is one classic example where he started out as a product manager, grew, and then eventually became CEO. So, because of that interdisciplinary role, because of an influential role few key product managers play, they can be great fit for CEOs. Some of them choose product management as a career itself. This is a nascent field. You don't have 50-year product leads yet. You have most of the lead product managers in 20s, 30s, and few of them in 40s. But you can be product manager or a product lead, product owner in a company, like, and for different styles of companies. And obviously, like, this does not limit. It's an interdisciplinary role, so you can essentially take up anything in life that you want to. And for me to, I would in future hopefully want to build something of my own. That is one goal, but I think that's not something that is going to limit me. I have a lot of different things that I would want to do. So it's a great career to be in. You might not start being a product manager right from college, but this is something that you can transition through in your career. And finally, right, I just want to touch upon this advice on career. Maybe I'll come to this slightly later. I'll first take questions on product management, and then let's say, and then we'll do it.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Vishnu, for such an insightful discussion about product management. So moving on, so we have few questions in the chat box. The first one is by Krishna Kant. So he's asking that what is the job? What is the job when your job profile is like product at something?
Okay, fair. So the reason why I don't call myself product manager in CureFit is in CureFit we have a culture of not having titles. So essentially, we as a company believe that there are teams of people working on products, and there's no hierarchy. So usually you have associate product manager, senior PM, lead PM, product owner. So there's a full hierarchy in certain companies, and that works for big companies, and that is required. But in a company of our size, we wanted to have a flat organization where there is a lot of ownership. So we just don't use the title of manager. But in the end, when I say product, it is what I mean, as I said before, which is now in CureFit, let's say, I look after all the healthcare products. So one of you shared the link there. So if you look at, depending on the city you are in, we have different services, but we offer teleconsultations right now in COVID. Like that's we also pivoted from an offline heavy business to an online business. So teleconsultations, diagnostics from home, and all the other like sort of health packs and few of the products that we have launched. So what I do essentially, let's say right now, is I take these problems and business opportunities and convert them into deliverable products that people can use, buy, and experience. So it depends on the product that is. So let's say in COVID, which is a new product that we have launched, we have looked at an opportunity, created a product. But let's say something like consultation, right, which we have had for the last 4 months. I look at few key metrics, see how to continuously delight the customer, improve their experience, solve all the problems that you would face like while doing consultations, and solve it. So that's essentially my role. So these are the problems I tackle, and how I tackle is by essentially telling the team what we need to do to solve these problems and work with engineers and designers to deliver them. So that's typically what product at something typically means. Is you lead a product, you lead a vertical, you look after a certain area within the company. And you're on mute, I think, Rishi.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's one question by Shiva. So he's asking that how was your role in Samsung Pay different from that in the CureFit?
Okay. So Samsung is a huge company, like lakhs of people, hundreds and thousands of people work over there. Well, CureFit is our core technical team is 250 people, and the whole operations and everything would reach 1,000. So in terms of scale, it's pretty different. Now, what changes with Samsung and CureFit is what essentially a startup and a big company is. In big company, you have things which are very structured. You have roles which are very structured. You have teams who know a lot of responsibility. Like, this is what I do. This is my timelines. This is how we do things. So things are more structured over there. There's more institutional knowledge over there in a big company. So you step in there and you have to work within the organization to deliver them. So the huge advantage over there is that you would have great mentors essentially, because it's a big company. You had a lot of interesting folks over there. Whatever you build, there's a chance that right away millions of people start using it. So that's a great advantage when you work for big companies, like whether it's Amazon, Apple, Google. So essentially you're building something at scale right on the get-go. But the negative or the cons about it is longer timelines. Because it's a big company, they have huge code bases, they have a lot of, it's a big machine. An elephant moves slowly. You need to move the elephant, it means it's going to take time. So that's the negative of the big companies. Well, a small company.
Vishnu, sorry for interrupting you.
Yes.
Your video seems to be off. Is that a deliberate thing, or I think?
No, I can't. Sorry, I think it shut off along with my
Yeah.
presentation. Probably. Thanks for pointing out. Yeah. So in a small company, the key advantage is that you are the owner. So in the sense that there's a lot of ownership in whatever field you do. There are very few people working on what you're working on. There's a lot of ownership, and the speed of execution is quite high. So while things are unstructured, you end up doing a lot of things. You end up shipping quite fast. So that is the advantage of, let's say, a small company is. So as I said, the best teacher is by doing it. So you can do it in both places. Like, you can start your career in a big company and then continue there. You can start in a small company, but you need to understand that in a big company, things move slowly, so you execute slowly. In a small company, things are more unstructured, so you need to learn to structure things. So those are the good and bad. I enjoy working in a small company because it's more dynamic. I have learned things I need to learn in a big company. But I also want to build the products that I work today are in scales of hundreds of thousands. It's still not in millions of range because my company is still small. So it evolves and that moves.
Okay, yeah, rightly answered. Moving on, there's another question by Shiva. What helped you to shift from software engineering role to a product management role?
Sure. Now, this is going to be anyone who is keen, anyone who does not right away have a product manager role, have this question. What helped me is in Samsung or in any company that you work in, right? A lot of people value initiative. Like, if you are the person who shows up, who does the walks the extra mile and does stuff on your own, people respect and people value that skill. So what I did in my software engineering role while delivering my core things was always showing these product skills. So I did a lot of independent projects which were more consumer oriented things that we could do. Within my team, within my company, I always was pushing for things that, let's say, is simple for someone else to understand, for a consumer to understand. For, let's say, and one of the first products that I worked on was a B2B product. It means you need to explain whatever your technology does to a business person in the end, because they are the ones who's going to purchase it. So how do you simplify this technology and communicate it in an easy way to someone who's not very technical? So I showed these things, and that is what essentially and when I made a case that I'm interested in this product, people saw all of this and said, okay, this person is someone that is actually doing something, so I need to take them seriously. And then one thing led to another, and that's how I transitioned. But what helped me, which is the other question, which I'll touch upon in the my advice for your career, is the people you know, right? So your friends, the people you work with, your colleagues, in the end help a lot. Like, they help you pitch yourself to the right people. They will give you referrals, they'll give you reference on how you work and all of it. So what helped me while shifting also was my teammates recommended me. I knew someone in a product team who would vouch for me. So that is another thing that helped me.
Okay. Next question is by Anirudh. Uh, so Aniruddha asking that what are the essential skills needed out of college to get into product management?
Okay, so that is pretty good. Like, good job. I mean, I want more of you, not just to build an app, essentially to do things on your own. Um, so, how do you improve, right? I think the best way is right now you are raw, and right now you have time on your side. So, what you need to do is both learn the core skills, which is to ship often, to correct your course often, because you keep learning as you go and you can correct as you go. So continue to deliver things. That's a great teacher, like and to do it. So one is to ship it. Second, try to define what your success criteria is. Try to define what is the what goals you want to achieve. What are the key metrics I want to track? Let's say it's number of users, it is number of people who tell me, or it can be as intangible as, like, is it a great like, is it something that I can boast to my friends and family? So it can be anything, but you have few success metrics that you track diligently and that you can improve upon. And the third, which is most important, which I called about, is a product sense. Is you look at things around you, right? Things that anything that you think work brilliantly. Try to identify what problems it solves, how does it solve it, and why is it like doing it really special. And like, and you, the more you do this, the more things you do. A great book design, a great app, a great physical product, a great speech, anything, right? A great article. You try to see why they work, and then the more you do it, the more you see, hey, these are the things that all of them have in common, or these are the things that they do really well. So if you do these three things, I think by shipping often, by tracking things very well, and trying to define what makes great in college, I think you're in right shape basically.
Okay. So appending to what Aniruddha asked, he has another question that he is making an app and he is currently in college. So how do I learn to practice and make a good product? So
Yeah,
this
so
is his
as I said,
appending
like,
question to what he had asked.
yeah. I mean, the same things, right? In the end, app is just building another product, right? You are an engineer, you have a design in mind, and you're delivering it. I think the same lessons apply. But one thing that I think maybe you could add is, I think having a group of people or building a team and working with them is another great thing you could do. So that way you have a lot more ideas, lot more inputs that you can lean upon. So I would just say you have a designer, get help from an IDC designer. If you are not a computer science graduate, take help of like a computer science engineer, or let's say one of your seniors too, on how you can simplify this, what code base to use, and things like that. So take the help you get everything in college. Practice that I said, a few things. You need to ship often, you need to track it, and try to identify why things work, and that should do.
Okay. The next question was Rohit Yadav. So he's asking that how often you need to retrain and reskill yourself when working in startups versus big corporates.
Actually, that's a very interesting question. So, for any new company, I would say, I think it's going to take at least 3 to 6 months to actually acclimatize with the company and be at your like high performance levels or your usual performance levels. Because every change in company means new culture, new processes, new people. So you are going to take time to ramp up. In product management role, I would say it actually takes almost 1 year to be fully at the high level. Now, transitioning from big company to small company is a combination of these two. So it's going to take 3 to 6 months to acclimatize with the company and everything. It's going to take another 6 months to sort of fully get to that level where you execute very fast, because you are learning that you have a lot more ownership. Let's say in a big company, you would email and wait for them to respond. But let's say in a startup, you might as well call and like clarify things. So I would say 6 months, 3 to 6 months is what you should like at the minimum estimate. And for product management, especially, I would say 1 year to get back to that peak levels of performance. You're on mute, Hish.
Rishikesh, you're on mute.
I'm really sorry about this. The next question is from Leander. So he's asking that how different is the interview procedure for a product manager and an engineer?
Okay, so I mean, I know for a software engineer, so I can speak for that. In a software engineer, you are tested on your core concepts, and obviously, bit of problem solving and communication skills is what typically they would test, and in a engineering role. But for a product manager, it totally flips. The kind of questions that they ask you are they might ask you obviously how you understand technology, what makes good design, and all of it, but that is not the main thing. The main questions that they would say is, hey, have you used this feature on my app? Or they might say, hey, you have used Google Maps, like tell me like 5 things that it doesn't do well. Or how would you solve this problem? So they might say one of the things, let's say if you have ordered food on Zomato or Swiggy, and the delivery boy does not show up, the delivery executive does not show up. Now this is a very unhappy case for a customer. Like if you were in my shoes, how would you solve, like how would you solve this problem? So slightly open-ended, slightly focusing on a problem statement and how you would tackle it. How do you identify user needs? How do you come up with solutions? And how do you prioritize among multiple solutions? So those are the things that they would test in a product management interview. So I will share a link, my deck link here. In the end, I've compiled a few resources on a book on interviewing for product manager. I've included some articles that will help you understand what makes good startups, or on product management itself, or how you can try to see things that I'm talking about. This, how to build good companies, how to build good products. So those are the things that the last slide in that document would cover. So you can use.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, this question by Sai Krishna. So he's asking that any resources to practice product thinking which you feel will be useful. Any resources to practice product? Okay, he has repeated the question, and he also mentioned that apart from the books and blogs and courses that are suggested for experiential learning, is there any other thing that can be used for product thinking?
So there is a website called Product Hunt where people post anything that they create across the world. Obviously, you have tons of ideas. A lot of them are crazy, impractical, and not very great. But what you can do is look at the site, look at few top problems that have come up that a lot of people have liked. Look at what they are solving, and that's a great exercise you can do. Like outside all of that I said, look at other people's ideas and also sort of try to see what you would do, what you would not do. See a classic problem, let's say designers, let's say do a common problem that says, hey, how can you improve a railway ticket or an airplane ticket? How do you redesign it? Now that's a very open-ended problem statement which you can also solve, like every one of us can solve. And by tackling such problems, I think you would improve outside these. A Product Hunt. Yeah.
Should I move on to the next question?
Yes, sure.
So yeah, Amay is asking that how essential are the software development / coding skills to be a good product manager?
See, as I said, right, I know designers who have moved into product management, they don't have any software experience. I know a lot of non-software engineer product managers, so people from other departments who have like done other roles, have done operations roles, have done consult roles, and moved into product management. So there are a lot of different ways. You don't have to be a software engineer, but it helps for you in your working in, let's say, predominantly software companies. It helps for you to learn, right? In the end, curiosity and like has to be there, like, and you should try to make an effort to understand how these systems work, and that will take you a long way. Like, so I think it's not required, but it's essential for you to build those understandings so that you can speak to them and communicate in the language they speak.
Yes, okay. So Harshit is asking that as I am most interested in entrepreneurship and you are also working in a startup company, what challenges you have faced while working in the startup businesses and how have you solved your challenges?
See, there are okay. So in a startup, right? It really changes when you are a CEO or a co-founder to while you are leading a product. So let's say I focus more on you owning a product and how do you solve challenges in the company, right? See, one of the things in a startup is you never have time, you never have resources, and you want to do everything yesterday. Okay, so basically you want to do a lot of things You have a lot of problems that are not there, that are there that you cannot solve with the people you have, with the time you have. So the best way to solve any in a startup scenario is two things, right? Take ample help from people in a startup, your co-workers or your teammates, right? They are all in for the experience of a startup. So just take their help. And second thing is to prioritize. See, when you have 10 things to do, what you need to say is take a pause and say, what are the most important things that I need to close, that otherwise that my company or my product will not survive, and tackle those questions. So when 10 people say, hey, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, that customer is saying this is a user problem, this tech bug is there, when you have all of them, you as a product owner or as a CEO, let's say, have to take a step back and say, hey, what is the most important thing that is important for my survival of my company? 1, 2, 3, 4. My resources or my time allows me to tackle only first two, then solve those two, and then pick up the next 3 and 4. So by prioritizing and taking your teammates' help, I think that's the best way to tackle any challenges in a startup, basically.
Before we move on, I would like to share the feedback form. So everyone, I've shared it on the chat. So please fill us and let us know how did you like the talk. Also, Vishnu, I think we have almost completed 1 hour. So would you be okay if we extended it by 10 15 minutes or like
No,
more?
definitely. So I understand some of you might leave. I just want to touch upon one career advice piece, and then we can come back to the questions. Is that okay?
Sure, definitely.
I'll just share my screen, and this is something. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. See, this is something that I continuously learn, and I think it does not stop. Essentially, is what is your career, right? So you are in your 20s, and given like now the way we live, our career is essentially not something that you're going to do in the next 2-3 years. It's 40 to 50 years. So it's a very long thing, and you don't have to do one thing. Also, you can always do new things. You can experiment. You could try new stuff. You can fail. You can start new. You can do something totally different. So don't fret too much about hey, what is the next step. Don't be tensed about if you're unsure of what you want to do in the long term. Most of the people are 80% of the people are unsure of what your career is. Few other advices, right? So people you work with, whether it's in college, whether it's in any startup, whether it's in the company, they go a long way. The friendships that you build go a long way. The relationships that you build. So focus, always try to be around great people, right? IIT offers the same thing. I think you should aim for it in every company that you work for. The other call out I wanted to say is a lot of people would join a company for their brand, like this fancy company, this big company, they're doing really well, they pay a lot. But what I wanted to call out is your mentors and the immediate manager or your senior, they matter a lot more, because they can really shape you, guide you, and give you a lot of opportunities. Now, how do you, while these are general advice, how do you shape your career, right? Some of us are lucky, they know they want to be certain things, and then they do it. Some of us are not so lucky. Even I am not that lucky. So what I do and what I have done is I did the first thing in college, which is I leaned into something that I was curious, and I tried those things. And I'll tell you, so I spent 3 summers in college. I did 3 internships, and totally very different. So first year I worked under Jayaprakash Narayan, who was a policy maker, was an MLA, is an active politician. My second year I worked in IIMA, essentially in a non-profit and a research-oriented role. In my third year I worked as a software engineer in a small company. As a job I chose a big company, Samsung, and I worked outside India. So at each step of my career, I felt I wanted to answer this. Hey, what is the thing I wanted to do? What is the thing I think can create a great impact? And to answer those questions, I tried things that I was curious about, and I experimented. So I want you guys, when you have time in college, is whatever you're curious about, try it, and that is the best teacher for you. The second thing is, and this is something that is a bit more philosophical, is you need to connect the dots. So you need to identify what kind of work you like. Are you the person who wants to take one problem and spend a lot of time? It means, let's say, research or something else is something that is your thing. are you someone, let's say, who want to like do on your own and not be disturbed by others? Then it's like an engineering or something else might be a great role for you. Do you want to work with a lot of different people? So you need to understand what kind of work you like, and that also happens as you do more stuff. And the second part is, what do you value? See, some people want to do certain kinds of work, some people want to solve certain kinds of problems, and some people have certain ethos in life. And this is something that you discover, like that you like that evolves over time. But when you combine these two, right, that can also give you answers on what kind of careers, what kind of roles you can take. So this is a bit of advice I have also added to you in the appendix, like one sort of design your career and design your life from Stanford Design School. Do look at that video, and definitely read more about this topic. But this is my, and you can read through articles and books here. But this is my sort of at a high level, my advice for how you can figure out your career steps and do things that you love, that you enjoy, that you are proud of, and that you're happy in the end. So we can come back to questions. Sorry, I just wanted to cover before others leave.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, we have a next question. I am going for a job which doesn't really involve products. It's prop trading. What would be a good way to transition to product if I feel like it in an year or two? Can I keep doing something passively to make possible future transition easier?
See, if you do something passively, you're as well not doing it. I think what you meant by is doing it on the side, and I think you should continue doing it. See, I think don't worry. The doors into product management don't end at any stage in your career. After 2 years, you can like find a company who's willing to bet on you. That's one way. You can you can do your startup, or you can join a startup and like pick up product roles over there. You could also do an MBA. I think someone had a question on MBA too. So those are different ways in which you can transition. So I think the doors don't end. I think continue with the job that you have, but do some things on the side, like do an independent project, solve a problem that you think is something worth solving, that you want to spend time on, so that you continuously build the product chops, and you know before getting into product roles what product management is.
Okay, moving on. There's a question by Leandra again. So, he's asking that does an MBA help for product management roles?
Yeah. So, see, MBA. The core skills of an MBA, the technical skills of an MBA, I think you can learn by studying. You can learn by doing those roles. But what MBA offers you, like, is a lot more things. It offers you the experience. It offers you a way in which to think. So, does MBA help? I would say it for a lot more people. For them, it's a way into, like, someone who, like, I know a lot of people who want to move into product, but they don't see a direct path into product management. So they do an MBA so that they can upskill and then move to a product management. So MBA helps for certain people, but I think if you are really passionate about building products, I would say first try doing something on your own. Try to transition within your company, and then give MBA a chance, because MBA is also expensive, right? So, and it takes 1-2 years of your life. So, MBA helps, but it is very contextual, and that discussion is something lot more like.
Yes. Moving on. Anirudh is asking the second question that if I am confused between, say, 3 not so related possible graduation options, how do I start prioritizing them?
Sorry, what options? I missed that.
3 not so related possible graduation options.
Are they like has he shared the options, or?
No, he hasn't shared. Anirudh, can you please?
Fair. Okay, fair. You have 3 options, and like that's fair. So it's a tricky question. I think what you need to do is few things, right? Speak to people who are actually doing that job, not at a very high level, but let's say immediate seniors, 2 to 3 years seniors. Talk to them on what's your day-to-day like role is going to be. So that provides you the necessary information for you to reflect and think about. Second, what you need to do is take some time and reflect if that job and what those three options are, what you do in those three options on those two matrices, right? What kind of work you get to do it? Like, is it something that you like doing it? Second, is it something that aligns with your values or the problems that you work on? I think use these two matrix and that information to sort of see which of them works well. And if you have a long-term career path, right? If you have this one goal, I want to be this, I want to do this, then you can figure out a way to that. That is another way to do. But if you don't have that, use this matrix to do. So you connect the dots. Hey, these are the things that I value. Which of these jobs are connecting these dots? And then you can like pick and see which one makes the most sense.
Yes. He has told the three options that he was thinking of. One is MS, one is non-tech job, and third one is tech job.
Yeah, so essentially polar opposites. I think I think then the answer there is what kind. See, MS is two things, right? It's to build your core skills, but it also a way opens up to new job opportunities. So understand what reason you want to do that MS. In non-tech job, if you're comparing from a tech job to a non-tech job, for a moment ignore like how many companies come, what options I have. Slightly focus on like why do I want to do these two things. So try to identify why you have all these options in mind, putting aside the fact that whether the companies are there or not, and then just use these two matrices. What do you do every day in that job? Is it the style of work that you like? And second is what you value. I think that should solve it.
Okay. There's next question by Amay. So he's asking that what's your opinion on master's programs on product management being offered in universities abroad? Do they bring a significant value addition, or would you suggest working in product roles to learn instead?
Oh, working in product roles anytime. Like I think I would definitely say if you have an opportunity to work in a product roles, I think you should take that. Just one call out is when you work in a small company, right? A lot depends on the kind of culture your company has, the kind of processes that you follow. So you need to work in that right environment. So let's say if you're doing it with your friends, obviously, and you're very young, you have a lot of things to learn. That's perfectly fine. But if you're joining someone else's company, then you need to trust that the company's processes, values, the vision makes sense, and that is so. Startup or actually doing a product role anytime, but just evaluate if the company's product teams are respected, valued, or they have the right culture in place, basically. The only reason someone chooses, let's say, this is a lot of people want to take a break also from work, so they would want to do a master's. A lot of people aim for certain companies, like because their roles demand it, and that's why they choose MS. So it really depends. Right? Someone wants to work in a big company have a specific role in mind. For that, they need MS in product management or MBA in product management and all. So it is useful, but if you get an opportunity and if your target roles don't require it, you don't have to do it.
Okay, that's really well answered. So Ajitesh has a question that you mentioned mentorship is important. What factors would you consider for evaluating your manager while selecting a job role?
Great. So, okay. So it is great if you can evaluate a manager. Not only in smaller companies, you would know which team you would go for. But I think what you need to look at is in the role that you go for, speak to people who are working in that company, right? Talk to them how decisions are made. Talk to them how you can grow basically, like within that company, and try to see them when some things go wrong. Like how do they react? Like these questions, right? I think will help you understand, like explain the culture of that company, and then if that culture is something that excites you, I think you can go for it. So I gave an example of what my company does, right? I said I'm not calling myself a product manager because we don't have titles in our company. We are no manager, we are no lead, and all of that. That is something I absolutely love, like where they are. So that is why that is what I would say is you can ask these questions and understand if that team or the company culture is great. If you can meet your manager, I think you can put the same questions to them and see how they respond, and I think you will learn a lot more by meeting with them. But if you can't meet them, try to have a sense of understanding of the company and its culture.
There's the next question by Leander again. So he's asking that what would a typical day as a PM at Samsung office look like? Samsung look like?
Okay, you're curious about Samsung. So in a typical day at Samsung, it varies a lot. But the first thing that most product managers do is look at the metrics that or the key products that they look after. Like, let's say, how many users are using it? What are the conversion rates? How is the ratings of different products? How many tickets have come? So those are a few common things. That's the first thing I typically look at. And I typically block my time. See, a product manager role, as I said before, you work with a lot of people. So you end up having a lot of meetings where you coordinate with different folks and do it. So I try to spend good 1 to 2 hour chunks of time where I can focus on key problems that are there. So that is another important thing I keep in mind that I do even today. And once I do after this, every day it's meeting with key stakeholders, like aligning different people, convincing them that this is the right decisions, like we need to do next things we have to build. So meeting with designers and reviewing the designs, meeting with engineers and figuring out, hey, what is the status of the product? What are few technical challenges that you're facing? Are there any delays in delivery? So things like that. So I meet with different stakeholders individually. I get all the people and convince them, either track metrics with them, review what is working well and what is not working well, or we all brainstorm on what are the next steps we need to do. So metrics in the beginning, my solo time where I focus on key problems I'm trying to tackle, and rest of the day is individually meeting with people and working with them, or aligning groups of people is how I would do.
Okay. Participant, this would be the last question we would be taking. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat box. So the Sanjot is asking that how do we manage the stress of competition?
Okay, so and this is actually pretty interesting question. See, one thing that you need to realize, right? Competition is essential, and you learn. And why I say essential is if there is no competition, there's nothing else, and then you have to solely rely on your motivation, your intrinsic drive to make you act. But the moment there is competition, there's another source of inspiration for you. So look at it not in the negative sense, but look at it in a positive sense, that competition is essential and competition is the reality for you at any stage. If you don't have competition, it means either you are way ahead of everyone else, which means obviously intrinsic motivation is what should drive you. But if you're doing something that's out there, competition is the reality. And think of it as a way in which you better yourself. You can learn from them. You can you get challenged by them. You can challenge them. You can learn a lot more by competition. So what I would say there is use it as a learning opportunity and manage your stress. So if you're stressed about competition, I think learn to tackle it, because as I said, you're just starting out in your career. It is not going to go away, and you need to manage it effectively. So change the way you look at it, and and manage the stress that comes with competition. I think you're in good shape with that.
Thank you, Vishnu. Handing over to Sanjot now. Sanjot, would you like to take over?
Yeah, so I sincerely thank Vishnu sir for taking out his time from
No
his busy
sir,
schedule.
please. No sir, call me Vishnu.
Okay, that's an honor. Yeah, I thank Vishnu for taking time out from his busy schedule for us. Also, I also thank him for being so generous and sharing these resources, and also sharing his phone number with us. And also I'd like to thank Rishikesh for moderating this session very well. It couldn't have happened without you as well. So apart from that, I think we are coming to a close for this session. And I thank everyone for taking part in this, and I hope you have a great day. And thank you once again to Vishnu and Rishikesh.
Thanks everyone. Pleasure talking to you guys.
Thank you, Vishnu, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, feel free to WhatsApp me, anything that you have. Happy to help anytime. WhatsApp me or email me, and we can take up the conversation there. Good job, guys. See you. and have a new semester online, and that's pretty new experience.
Yeah, that's the hot topic of the town right now. Okay, thank you
Yeah,
so
good
much
stuff.
once again.
Okay. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye. Bye.